At Christmas, my sister's kid pointed at my son. "Grandma says you're just the helps kid." Everyone laughed. I took my boy's hand and left. That night, I canceled the utility auto payments. At 8:06 a.m. my dad texted, "The lights are out, what did you do?" I replied, "Believe me, this is just the beginning." Last Christmas was the last time I played nice with my family. I used to think biting my tongue was the mature thing to do, especially for my son's sake. Keep things civil. Keep the peace. But what happened that day changed everything. We had arrived early like always. Noah was helping my mom in the kitchen while I fixed the Wi-Fi in the guest room for the 5th time that year. My parents never paid attention to that stuff. I did it all quietly. Wi-Fi, computer upgrades, setting up my dad's new smart TV. I even filed their taxes last year when they didn't understand the new digital portal. But in my family, the more you do, the less you're respected. Somehow helpfulness is just expected of me, like it's built into my DNA. Melissa, on the other hand, could show up late, bring a store-bought pie, and my mom would act like she had just saved Christmas. So by the time everyone sat down to eat, I already felt that tight knot in my chest that only family gatherings create. The table was packed. My mom had set out her best dishes, the ones she doesn't let anyone touch unless it's a holiday. Noah helped with all the placements. He's 9, but more polite and considerate than most adults I know. He doesn't interrupt, he says please and thank you, and he's always the first to offer help without being asked. Melissa strutted in nearly 40 minutes late with Sadie in a fur-lined coat, acting like they had just come from the Met Gala. Her husband trailed behind her with 2 iPads under his arm like they were some kind of peace offering. Sadie didn't even say hello. She walked in, scanned the room, and made a beeline for the cookies. Melissa just waved her hand and started complaining about how hard it is to find reliable house staff around the holidays. My parents lit up. Like actual smiles and energy, the kind they reserve for company or when they think someone can do something for them. I watched them bend over backward for Melissa, praising her new hairstyle, asking about her Instagram brand deals, like they were a real job. Meanwhile, I was asked to please move my car out of the driveway so Melissa could park closer. The meal was quiet at first, except for Sadie's occasional humming while she scrolled on her tablet at the table. I asked her to put it away gently, and Melissa rolled her eyes like I was insane. Then mid-meal, Sadie dropped her fork and pointed at Noah. No warning. Just clear as day. "Grandma says you're just the helps kid." Everything stopped. I mean everything. The sound of chewing, the clinking of silverware, even the holiday music in the background suddenly felt too loud. There was a long beat of silence, and then Melissa laughed. A short, sharp little laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world. My dad chuckled too. My mom put her napkin to her mouth like she was hiding a smirk. Noah just looked at me. He didn't ask what she meant. He already understood. I stood up. I told Noah to grab his coat. No yelling. No drama. Just done. We left without another word. No one followed us. No one called out. The door shut behind us like a chapter closing. When we got home, I tucked Noah in early. I told him none of it was true and that people who act that way are never really happy. He nodded, but I knew he'd carry that moment for years. I went downstairs, sat on the couch, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank accounts. Over the years, I had set up auto payments for all of my parents' utilities. Electric, gas, water, trash, and even the cable. I had covered their property taxes twice without them even knowing because the letters came to my inbox. And not once did they say thank you. It was just expected. Like I owed them something because I made more money and didn't need help raising my son alone. At 12:07 a.m. I canceled everything. At 8:06 the next morning my dad texted. "The lights are out, what did you do?" I replied, "Believe me, this is just the beginning." After I sent that text there was silence. Not a single call, not a question, not even a passive-aggressive emoji from my mom. I knew what they were doing. The cold shoulder. It's their favorite move when they don't know what else to do. They've used it on me since I was 16 and dared to say I didn't want to be a dentist like my dad. Ignore Janet and she'll come crawling back. Except this time I didn't. I took Noah out for pancakes the next morning. We picked out new books at the library and came home to build a cardboard robot he'd been dreaming up for weeks. I watched him laugh without looking over his shoulder. That was the moment I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. That's a different kind of power. But my parents weren't done. Not by a long shot. The next morning my phone lit up with alerts from the utility companies. First the gas, then the electric. Failed payments. Account locked. I had changed all the login credentials before canceling. I wasn't sloppy about it. I knew my dad would try to fix it himself. What I didn't expect was that he'd try to re-add me as the payer without asking. The request came through my email with a message from the electric company. "Your father, Charles, is requesting to make you a secondary account holder again. Approve or deny." I hit deny. Twice. Then I changed the account security question to something he'd never guess. That afternoon, Melissa sent me a group text. Just me, her, and my mom. This is childish. You embarrassed everyone. You need help. Followed 2 minutes later by a screenshot of a Yelp review my mom had left under a burner name for the company I work for. It said I was emotionally unstable and not to be trusted with data. It had 1 star. I should have been shocked. But I wasn't. This is exactly who they become when they lose control. I didn't answer the text. I forwarded the review to my company's HR and flagged it as defamatory. They took care of it within the hour. At 7:04 p.m. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, it was a lawyer. Or someone trying very hard to sound like one. Said he was representing my parents. Said there were concerns about the well-being of the child. Said I was intentionally cutting off resources and emotionally isolating my son from his family. What they didn't know was that I record everything. Every email. Every payment receipt. Every time they handed Noah a used toy on his birthday while showering Sadie with new gadgets. Every time they left him out of family photos. Every little jab Melissa made while my parents laughed along. All of it, documented, organized. And my actual lawyer, who I called the next morning, was more than happy to start a file. I didn't respond to their threats. I let them spiral. Then came the next move, something I hadn't seen coming. I got a notification on my work laptop. Multiple failed login attempts from an IP address located 2 towns over. My password had held, but my security team flagged it anyway. I traced the IP through a connection I had at my internet provider. It was my parents' address. They were trying to get into my work accounts. I sat in my car in the garage and just stared at the steering wheel. This wasn't about a joke at dinner anymore. This was war. And they had just crossed the line from petty to dangerous. So I took the next step. I called the city zoning office. Asked about the status of my parents' back deck. They'd built an extension last year without permits. I knew because I helped set up their outdoor speakers while my dad bragged about how much money they saved by skipping inspection. Turns out that kind of thing carries fines. Big ones. That Friday morning at 6:18 a.m. I got another text from my dad. We can't get into the garage. The opener's not working. I stared at it and remembered. I installed their garage opener system through my tech account, which I had just deactivated. I didn't answer. By noon I had 4 voicemails. The last one from Melissa. You're destroying this family. Sadie cried all morning. Noah is going to grow up alone. I played it back 3 times. Not once did she ask how Noah was doing now. Not once did she say she was sorry. That night I ordered a new laptop for Noah. Not a kid version, an actual entry-level professional one. He'd asked me a few weeks ago if he could learn to code. You're not growing up alone, I told him. You're growing up free. The deck inspection was just the first ripple. Within a few days, a large orange stop work notice was slapped across the back of my parents' home. They'd ignored permit rules when they built their patio extension last summer. I remember because I was there when my dad laughed about it, saying inspectors were just bureaucrats with clipboards. Apparently the city disagreed. Melissa wasted no time trying to spin the whole thing online. Her Instagram story showed the notice in dramatic zoom while she talked about being targeted for having a nice life. She tagged random influencers and added hashtags like #unfair treatment and #family jealousy. I didn't even know what that last one was supposed to mean. But what really caught my attention was the comments section. People weren't buying it. Someone asked if she ever apologized to her nephew. Another said, "You've been living off your sister for years, haven't you?" Then came the letter from some cheap family attorney, probably a referral from one of Melissa's yoga friends. It claimed I was intentionally isolating my child and withholding essential financial support from elderly parents. The best line? That I had weaponized my income. They wanted a family court to intervene. I had already sent my lawyer everything. He told me not to worry. I sent back one neat, professional response. Please inform your client that future communication must be sent through legal counsel. Also, see the attached documentation. The PDF I included was nearly 50 pages. Bank records. Payment histories, screenshots of emails, texts, a breakdown of every utility I had paid over the last 6 years, birthday gifts I bought for Sadie that were passed off as coming from Melissa, an email thread where my dad asked me to handle their tax mess, then told my mom I had nothing better to do. My lawyer called the next day. The other attorney had dropped the case within 24 hours. No retainer, no refund, no follow-up. But Melissa wasn't done. She never is. The next escalation hit fast. I got a call from Noah's school. Someone had tried to check him out early, claiming to be his aunt. Melissa. She told the front office I had given her permission. She even showed a fake text she had written herself in her notes app. hoping they wouldn't notice. They did. I left work and drove straight there. The principal met me in the lobby. Melissa was sitting with her legs crossed, smiling like nothing had happened. I told the school to put her on a permanent no-contact list. I didn't even look at her. I just asked for the paperwork and took Noah home. He never asked what happened. He just sat in the back seat holding his lunchbox a little tighter. That night I posted one thing. A photo of Noah in his new hoodie, holding his beginner coding book with his lopsided grin. The caption was short. He's not the helps kid. He's my kid. And he's doing better than fine. I went to bed. By morning it had over 3,000 shares. My inbox was full. Teachers, old classmates, strangers. People saying they wish they had stood up for their kids sooner. People who knew Melissa and my parents and had stayed quiet until now. 2 days later, Melissa deleted her Instagram. But I wasn't done. They forgot about the mortgage. About 4 years ago, during one of their panic phases about money, my parents nearly lost the house. They asked me to help temporarily. What I did instead was buy the loan from the small local lender they were working with. It was legal. It was in writing. And they signed it. They didn't even read the fine print. I took over the loan, made their payments, and technically became the lien holder. They hadn't made a single payment in 14 months. I checked. So I sent a notice of delinquency. No threats. Just numbers. The balance due. The months missed. The clause they forgot they signed allowing the lien holder to reclaim the property in case of sustained default. At 6:41 p.m., my dad texted me. "You can't be serious." I didn't reply. 3 days passed after I sent the mortgage delinquency notice. I didn't hear a word. No texts, no calls, no uninvited drop-ins. The silence wasn't peace, it was strategy. I knew my parents. When they didn't yell, they planned. On the 4th morning, I found a letter jammed into my mailbox. No envelope, no stamp. Just folded neatly, like a napkin at one of my mother's over-decorated dinner parties. The handwriting was hers. Even after everything, she still managed to keep her penmanship perfect. It read like a speech she'd been rehearsing. She said they understood my frustration. That maybe there had been a misunderstanding, and that perhaps she and Dad had been insensitive to my situation as a single mother. Then 2 lines later, she asked if I would temporarily reinstate the mortgage payments, for Noah's sake. She wrote, "He deserves stability. And grandparents, don't let this hurt his future." The same woman who laughed when her granddaughter insulted my son was now using him as leverage. I didn't reply. That afternoon I drove to their house. Not out of guilt, but because it was mine now, and I wanted them to remember that. The back deck still had the city notice taped to the railing. The siding was starting to fade. The front yard looked uncut, which was ironic since I used to pay the landscaper. My mom opened the door like I was a neighbor dropping by for coffee. No mention of the letter. He smiled like it was a game. My dad was sitting at the kitchen table pretending to read something on his laptop. The house was strangely quiet. For the first time it looked like what it was, a place on the edge of collapse. I placed the papers on the table. A formal notice to begin rental arrangements or vacate within 60 days. I wasn't evicting them, yet. But if they wanted to stay, they'd have to pay like everyone else. Lease agreement, monthly invoices, penalties for late payments. All official. All documented. My dad exploded. He said I was acting like a stranger. That I was letting money replace blood. He shouted something about how I wouldn't even have a degree if it weren't for them. My mom stayed quiet, dabbing her eyes like someone in a bad soap opera. I told them the truth. I said I had paid for my own tuition, supported myself, and bailed them out more times than I could count. I reminded them that I didn't grow up with support. I grew up with expectations. I said this was the first time in my life I was being treated like an adult by my own parents, because I had forced them to. They didn't respond. I walked out. But I didn't get far. The next day, something I truly didn't see coming happened. Melissa showed up. At my office. My assistant buzzed me, said there was a woman in the lobby crying who said she was my sister. I almost told her to send her away. But curiosity got the better of me. Melissa was sitting on the couch in the waiting area, hair a mess, makeup half worn off. She didn't stand. She didn't even look me in the eye. Just held out her phone with her banking app open. Balance. $0. I stared at it. She said her husband had frozen their accounts after finding out she tried to take money from his business to handle a family emergency. She didn't say exactly what she told him, but it was enough for him to lock her out. And file for separation. I asked where Sadie was. With his parents. They didn't want her hearing them fight anymore. Then Melissa said something I'd never heard from her, not even when we were kids. I don't know where to go. I didn't say anything for a while. Then I offered to cover a hotel. 1 week. Nothing else. Not for her, for Sadie. She nodded. On her way out, she turned and asked, "What do you want from us?" I told her flatly, "I want you to teach your daughter not to become you." She didn't argue. She just left. That night, I got a text from my dad. "What do we need to sign?" And then, the next morning, something new. A call from Noah's school. A letter had been mailed in anonymously, accusing me of neglect, of isolating Noah from his extended family, and denying him developmental opportunities. I drove to the school immediately. They showed me the letter. The language was oddly formal, someone clearly trying to sound like a professional. But it was sloppy. They'd included a printed photo of Noah from my social media. I knew right then. It wasn't from my parents. It was from someone worse. The letter was printed on generic paper. No return address. Just typed out in a clumsy, pseudo-professional tone, like someone had copied it from a parenting blog and added words like concerning behavior and emotional detachment. But the worst part was the photo. It was Noah, sitting in our living room in his new hoodie, holding up the coding book I bought him, the one from the post I'd shared. I looked at the principal. She didn't say anything at first. She just handed me the envelope and said quietly, "We know this isn't real. We're required to report it to the district, but we're not pursuing anything. We just thought you should see it." I asked if they had cameras in the office. She said no one dropped it off, it came through the mail. I left, holding that envelope like a bomb someone had tried to disguise as a letter. I sat in my car for almost 10 minutes before I called my lawyer. I told him everything, including the photo, the wording, the timing. He asked me one question. "Do you think it was Melissa?" I wanted to say yes. But no. This wasn't her style. He was reckless, loud. She liked to make scenes and then pretend she hadn't. This was different. That night I went through everything. Every recent call, email, DM. I remembered Melissa saying something back when she showed up at my office. About needing to handle a family emergency. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she didn't say our family. It took 2 days to confirm. It wasn't Melissa. It was her husband, David. He wasn't just freezing her out, he was trying to make me look unstable. He wanted to use the courts to keep Sadie. Full custody. And the fastest way to win custody is to prove the other parent's environment is toxic. So he went after the easiest target. Me. I had become the narrative. The unstable aunt with a vendetta. The family divider. He was building a case behind the scenes, one step at a time. And that letter. That was the start. I met with my lawyer again and we got a protective order against David. I filed an official incident report with the school and the local police. I also went further. Installed a new security system at my house, changed Noah's pickup password at school, and blocked every number that had ever come from David's office. But that wasn't enough. Not for me. I made a call to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Teresa. She used to be a paralegal at a firm I interned with right after college. She now worked for a family court investigator. I asked her if she could check into any pre-custody filings connected to David. She called back the next night. He'd already filed a motion for temporary custody. Claimed Melissa was mentally unstable and under the influence of a hostile sibling with unresolved trauma. His words. But here's the thing, he'd attached screenshots of my social media as part of his evidence. Only problem? He included doctored versions. Photoshopped. He'd altered captions. Changed dates. One of them showed Noah crying, except I had the original. He wasn't crying. He was laughing. I had the video. Time-stamped, metadata intact. I smiled for the first time in a week. I gave everything to my lawyer and waited. A week later, David's custody motion was dismissed with prejudice. Melissa didn't even show up to the hearing. But that's not what surprised me. What did? 3 days later, she showed up at my door. With Sadie. No makeup, no posing. Just her and her daughter with a suitcase. She asked if they could stay for a while. Said David kicked them out. Said she didn't have anywhere else. Noah was upstairs doing homework. He didn't even know she was there. I let her in. I didn't do it for her. I did it for the girl behind her, Sadie, who for the first time didn't look smug or spoiled. Just small. Melissa stayed quiet while I made tea. She stood in the kitchen wringing her hands. Then she whispered something I never thought I'd hear from her. "I think I've ruined everything." I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I saw it, the cracks. He was right. I told her she and Sadie could sleep in the guest room. Nothing more. No promises. No reunions. And she'd follow my rules or she'd be out by morning. She agreed. But that night something happened. Sadie knocked on my door after dinner. Just me and her in the hallway. She looked at the floor and said, "I'm sorry for what I said about Noah." And then, almost whispering, I didn't even understand it. Grandma told me to say it. Sadie's apology was quiet. No tears, no dramatic pause, just the soft truth of a child realizing she'd been used. I didn't hug her. I didn't tell her it was okay. I just nodded and said thank you. Then I closed the door and sat in the silence, letting that single sentence rearrange every memory I had of my parents. It was never about favoritism. It was control. Programming. Making sure someone in the family was always beneath them. Melissa didn't become Melissa on her own. She was built. And now her daughter was being unbuilt, right in front of my eyes. The next morning I made extra pancakes. Sadie came down first. She sat quietly, said please and thank you. Noah watched her like she was a hologram. At one point she asked if he'd teach her how to use his coding software. He looked at me confused. I shrugged. Your choice, I said. He said yes. Melissa kept out of the way that week. He did the dishes. Took out the trash. Picked up Sadie from school when I couldn't. It was like living with a quiet stranger. She didn't complain once. Not even when she overheard me on the phone finalizing the lease agreement for our parents. I knew she was listening, standing just outside the hallway. I said the amount clearly. I said it was non-negotiable. And I didn't care. On the last day of the month my parents came over. They'd asked to meet in person. I said yes, mostly out of curiosity. I didn't tell Melissa they were coming. She wasn't home anyway. She'd taken Sadie to the library. My mom was the first one through the door. She looked tired, like someone trying to wear dignity as a disguise. My dad followed, holding a folder. For once they didn't start with small talk. My dad handed me the signed lease agreement. He said they'd pay on time. That they understood the terms. That they didn't want to lose the house. My mom placed a small box on the table. Inside were photos. Of me and Noah. From birthdays, school plays, things I didn't know they even had. Then my mom said, we want to apologize. To both of you. I waited. She took out an envelope. Inside were letters. One to me. One to Noah. I didn't open them. Said I asked one question. Did you really tell Sadie to say that? My mom didn't speak. My dad looked away. That was all I needed. I told them they could stay for now. But this wasn't forgiveness. This wasn't a reunion. It was a lease. A boundary. A contract. And if they broke it, financially or otherwise, it would be over. They left without another word. A week later, Melissa found a part-time job. She said she wanted to try something on her own. She started cooking dinners. Sadie stopped using the tablet. She and Noah worked on a little project together. A simple app that tracked school assignments. Then something happened I didn't expect. It was Sadie's birthday. Melissa asked if she could throw a small thing at my place. Nothing big. Just a cake and a few kids from school. I agreed reluctantly. What I didn't expect was what came with it. My parents showed up. On time. Quiet. No gifts for Melissa. No over-the-top entrance. But they had something for Noah. A new laptop. A real one. Not some afterthought. With his name engraved on the back. Noah opened it slowly. He looked at me unsure. I nodded once. He looked at them and said, thanks. Then he turned back to Sadie and showed her the game he built. For the first time they watched him. Not as the helps kid. Not as a footnote. But as someone becoming something they couldn't ignore. That night, when the house was quiet and the guests had gone, Noah handed me the envelope my mom had written him. He hadn't opened it. Do you want me to read it? I asked. He shook his head. Not yet. I placed it in the drawer. Some things didn't need closure right away. Respect wasn't something you gave because of blood. It was earned. Fought for. Practiced. And for the first time my son had it. Every last one of them knew it now.